So I've been saying for several years now that we're going to see a lot of upsets in this current heavyweight era because I saw so many similarities between this era and the 1990s. And I know people are going to say the fighters now are not as good as they were in the 90s. Well, that's all conjecture. That's all up for debate. That's all personal opinion. The things I saw, though, were a bunch of guys who were all vulnerable, but all had ability. And they're all a similar age, similar size, and they're all coming up at the same time. That, to me, was a recipe for a very exciting, entertaining heavyweight division, which would be full of thrills and spills. That's why I predicted, 3-4 years ago now, that we're going to move into a new golden age of heavyweights? And we're here, we're in it. And I said that this age would be characterized by upsets. People would get beat by opponents that you didn't expect to beat them. Yeah? And that's what we're seeing. So one of the things that can happen is that once somebody gets beat, it reminds everybody else in the division that, hey, this is heavyweight boxing. One punch can change a fight. One punch can end a fight. So don't get complacent. Don't rest on your laurels. Now, Tyson Fury, being a very intelligent guy, he has taken heed of the recent upsets in heavyweight boxing. Particularly, I think this Dillian Whyte Povetkin fight. Because when AJ got beaten by Andy Ruiz, that's when Tyson Fury fought after that, right? Did he fight Schwartz before or was it after the AJ fight? I forget. But then he went on to fight Otto Wallin. Now, clearly, when you look at the Otto Wallin fight, Tyson Fury wasn't as up for that as he should have been. He thought that Otto Wallin was a complete pie, that he'd make mincemeat of him the same way he did Tom Schwartz, and he nearly came unstuck. He suffered a bad cut in that fight, which could have got the fight stopped on a TKO, let's be real, under a different ref. So I think that was a rude awakening for Tyson Fury. And he's also, as I say, watching the other heavyweights and he's thinking, you know what? I don't want to end up like them. He saw, he was doing an interview, with his dad the other day. And his dad was saying it can happen to anybody. And it really can. It could happen to Tyson Fury too. I know Frank Warren said, yeah, Tyson Fury got hit by Deontay Wilder and he got up and all this kind of stuff. Listen, if you apply the right amount of force to a man's jaw, it doesn't matter who he is, you can put him to sleep. Now, some people can take more force than others, but best believe there are people out there, if they catch Tyson Fury right, they'll put him to sleep. Yeah? That's just the reality of it. Now, Tyson Fury is an excellent fighter, and one of the strengths that he has, one of the many strengths, is his ability to ride a shot, is his ability to diffuse his opponent's power. I mean, he got caught by Deontay Wilder. Yes, Tyson Fury was weak at the time and he was tired and it was the 12th round and all that kind of stuff. But Deontay Wilder was tired too, Deontay Wilder, I'm sure if Tyson Fury stood still in a hypothetical scenario and said, okay, hit me with your best shot and see if you can knock me out cold. If Deontay Wilder was fresh, Tyson Fury was stood right there. Let's say he had a blindfold on so he can't see the punch coming, and Deontay Wilder hit him as hard as he possibly could on the jaw, Tyson Fury would be out cold. Okay, now, you're not going to see that kind of scenario in a boxing ring, obviously, but the point being, it only takes a certain amount of pressure. It only takes a certain amount of force detonated on somebody's jaw to knock them out cold. Some people can take more than others, but everybody has a point whereby they'll be rendered unconscious once you deliver a certain amount of force to their jaw or to their temple, to their ear, wherever. So, yeah, Tyson Fury knows it can happen to him. He's looked at what happened to Dillian Whyte. He's looked at what happened to Anthony Joshua. Yes, he's gloating to some extent, but he's also reminding himself that heavyweight boxing is perilous. He's been on the floor himself, of course, a number of times against people who really you wouldn't have expected to be able to drop him. Nevin Pikage, a guy with very few KOs, not a very good heavyweight. How on earth did he manage to deposit Tyson Fury on his backside? And that was a heavy knockdown as well. That wasn't no flash knockdown. That was a real heavy shot. And Tyson Fury went down. Steve Cunningham, a blown up cruiserweight. I mean, how many of you expected, particularly you Fury fans out there, how many of you expected Steve Cunningham to drop Tyson Fury like that in the second round? I didn't even expect that. That surprised me. So, and if a little cruiserweight like that is doing it, trust me, there are guys out there, if they catch you right when they're fresh, it's good night, Irene. So I think Tyson Fury is just demonstrating once again that he is the smartest heavyweight out there, not just in the ring, but even outside the ring in terms of what he takes heed of. And look, there are going to be lots of other heavyweights who take heed of stuff like this when they see upsets happening. They're thinking, okay, I don't want to be next. So let me take care, maybe be extra careful in my next fight. And make sure I train extra hard. It puts the whole division on notice to some degree. But Tyson Fury has so far managed to avoid being upset in a fight, and that's a mixture of him being as good as he is, picking the right fights at the right time, but also taking heed of what's happening around him with his rivals. Yeah. Now, I was talking in a Patreon live stream the other day about how I think Tyson Fury's career is going to pan out from here. And for some reason, I'd be surprised if Tyson Fury, let's say, becomes the undisputed, right? That's perfectly possible. But once he becomes undisputed, I'd be surprised if Tyson Fury is one of those champions like Mike Tyson in the 1980s, who says, okay, I'm the undisputed champion. I'm taking on all comers. I'm going to fight everybody, all my mandatories, anybody who wants to smoke, you can get it. I'd be surprised if Tyson Fury's that kind of champion. I'm expecting him to be a guy who, maybe picks up the undisputed title, but after that, gets rid of all the belts and handpicks his opponents. That doesn't mean he's going to pick bad opponents all the time, but similar to Floyd Mayweather, he understands that boxing is a numbers game. And if you go around trying to fight everybody, taking on all comers, you're going to lose eventually if you do that. Whereas if you are more careful about who you fight, you're still fighting quality men, but you're picking the right styles at the right time, in the right circumstances. If you do that, you can retire like Mayweather unbeaten, and you can carry that aura, that mystique of being this invincible fighter with you. Yeah? Floyd Mayweather, I know some people are not going to like this and they're going to disagree, but Floyd Mayweather was never an invincible fighter. He never was invincible. But he created the illusion that he was invincible by managing his career. And, well, we've got to give credit to Al Heyman here for managing his career expertly, because he picked the right fights at the right time. And when it wasn't the right time for certain fights, he would quote unquote retire for a couple years, let certain fighters move up in weight, let certain fighters beat each other up, observe certain weaknesses in some fighters. And then he would be like, okay, now it's time for me to come back and fight this particular guy. His style suits me. Somebody else with a more awkward style has moved up or gone here, there, or wherever. Now is the time to come out of retirement. This is what Floyd Mayweather was doing. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tyson Fury following a similar kind of blueprint, because he has that kind of cunning intelligence that most of the other heavyweights probably don't have. Yeah, Tyson Fury is cunning as a fox. Very, very cunning. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.